Well, hello, folks out there in YouTube land. Got a big show lined up for you. All right, yep. Now we're talking about Beamer to Mississippi State. Are you kidding me? They're actually headlining this guy. I can't get over it. And then Florida's recruiting is just totally crashing. And I'm wondering whether or not Billy Napier can survive this. His whole thing has been future. Look at all these great recruits I got coming in. We're number 3 in the country in recruiting. No, they're not anymore. And it's going down quick.
Please disperse. Nothing to see here, please.
And we'll get into that here in a minute. But first, we got to talk about Shane Beamer. You got to be kidding me that they're considering hiring this guy at Mississippi State. Now, look, he's not some horrible coach. I understand that. But give me a break. The guy was 2-6 2 weeks ago until he played Jacksonville State and Vanderbilt, which are two gimmies, honestly. And Jacksonville State almost took him down. And what games has this guy really won? He won 2 top 10 victories last year.
Are you sure?
And he was kind of stinking up the joint. They were getting ready to be 6-6. But magically, he scored, 95 points in 2 games after averaging 8 points the previous 2 games against Missouri and Florida, where he scored 10 and 6. And, of course, there's a lot of rumors that he might have been aided by the whole Michigan sign-stealing deal, where Michigan had supposedly reached out to teams that could be playing against teams that could knock Michigan off their path to the college football playoff, namely being Tennessee and Clemson. Somehow this team that really couldn't score a point against quality clubs all of a sudden scored 95 points in 2 games. Give me a break. 9 straight touchdowns. Couldn't score a touchdown at Florida. Could only score 10 points against Missouri. And we beat both those teams last year, by the way. Suddenly, they're unstoppable. And a lot of people said, gosh, it's almost like they know exactly what we're doing. We can't ever be in the right formation. Funny. And you remember they wore the wrist tags? The only game they wore wrist tags last year. And they didn't wear them this year when we were at Neyland, when you would think that'd be the one place you'd definitely wear them because it's so loud. They didn't need them this year for some reason. Very odd. And the fact that Shane Beamer was penalized $25,000 and fined for accepting opposition research back in 2016. Just a whole lot of circumstantial evidence on that. So now all of a sudden, because he beat 2 top 10s last year and has stunk up the joint this year, they want him at Mississippi State. Let's get into that. Yep, according to Sports Illustrated, Shane Beamer has been listed on Mississippi State hot board for head coaching position. And then it asks the question, how should Gamecock fans feel about this? Now, obviously, Mississippi State has fired Zach Arnett. I'm really kind of shocked they're considering Shane Beamer. My understanding, his buyout's like $20 million. So I don't see them coming up with anywhere near that kind of money to bring him over there. This is not a guy that's been successful. I'm sorry, he's 4-6 this year. You know, he had an okay year last year because of those 2 top 10 wins that, again, are very suspect. And a lot of people think it's Jimmy Sexton, who is Shane Beamer's agent, is just putting his name out there, which, look, that's what agents' jobs are to do. Put their name out there, try to get their coach either a raise or job security. Because now South Carolina Gamecocks, who are sitting there going, man, maybe we ought to get rid of this dude. He may end up 4-8 this year or 5-7, not reach a bowl game, and we're going backwards. And he hadn't beat anybody this year except, he's won 4 games. And look who he's beat this year. All right, he's beat Mississippi State, which is the worst team in the West, and Vanderbilt, which is the worst team in the East, and then Furman and Jacksonville State. And that's it. They've lost all their other games. So that's kind of a weird move. That's just Jimmy Sexton doing his job and trying to give Shane Beamer some job security. So I wouldn't put too much emphasis on that. Can you imagine Mississippi State coming up with $20 million to help him get a buyout and then paying him however many millions of dollars to go down there? Plus, it's a sideways, almost backwards move for Beamer. Beamer's obviously thinking, God, let me just win these last 2 games, get into a bowl game, and limp out of this season and get to the next one. So I'm not putting a whole lot of emphasis on this. I think this is just a ploy, is all it is. And the Florida Gators have just lost not only their 3rd, but possibly their 4th 4-star commit. They lost Nacer Johnson to Georgia. He has flipped from Florida, and he was a big defensive lineman, 6'5", 315, and he's gone. And now on Buckeyes Wire, Ohio State football is trending for another Florida commit, and that's Amaris Williams. And he's another top 100 defensive lineman that had committed back in mid-June. But his visit to Ohio State, he's received 2 crystal balls to Ohio State from Tom Loy and Bill Kurlick. And he's the number 15 defensive lineman in the country. And Florida's dropped from 3rd down to 5th, and now they're probably going to wind up 8th or 9th, somewhere in that neighborhood after another possible flip that looks like he's heading to Ohio State, which would make some sense. So now with 4 4-stars in 72 hours, either completely flipping or about to flip, this is sort of gutting some parts of Florida's really vaunted recruiting class, and it was really good, but it's starting to collapse.
Remain calm. All is well.
Is what's happening. And Billy Napier, he's lost 3 games in a row, and now he's headed to Missouri to play at night. So good luck with that game. Then they got to play Florida State at the Swamp. So he could end up finishing up with 5 straight losses, which would put them at 5-7, no bowl game. These are 2 coaches both heading towards possibly not having a bowl game, and the recruiting's falling apart. One is having his agent do his job, which is keep him in the news and kind of help support him through this very difficult season. And then the other guy, Florida's really in a tough spot here, because they've got the coach that I think would be ideal for them in Lane Kiffin, who's going to be available. And Texas A&M is probably going to swoop in and take him. And then they're going to be sitting here with, I guess, Billy Napier next year going into one of the toughest schedules you've ever seen. Their out-of-conference games are Miami, UCF, Florida State, and they do have one easy game, which is Sanford. The rest of them are all SEC games, and they've added Texas. So I'm telling you, talking about a brutal situation, it's not good. And Napier's coaching this year has been poor. His special teams have been terrible. And he needs an offensive coordinator and a special teams coach. But we'll see if he makes it. Honestly, if you end up with 5 straight losses, you're going to lose the fan base. You can just count on it. And they're going to be big-time underdogs in both those games. I mean, I don't see them beating Missouri at night. And I certainly don't see them beating Florida State, who's undefeated. So we'll see. Now, granted, it's at the Swamp, so, all the bets are off when it's an in-state grudge match at home. But this could go bad real quickly. So we'll see how this all plays out. Both of these coaches are in hot water. You can sit here and talk about Shane Beamer to Mississippi State all you want. That's poppycock or a poppy gamecock. And by the way, this whole Michigan thing is about to blow. There's a bunch coming down the pipe, and I think it's going to get worse way before it gets better. That's just my opinion. And I'm keeping my eye on it, and there's a lot of stuff going on that is not ready to be reported in my opinion, but it's getting close. And if you like this content, be sure to hit that like button. Let's be able to continue to cover SEC, some of the Big Ten, my Vols, of course, which is my team, and all these coaches that aggravate me. Shane Beamer being one of them, Billy Napier being – and I don't really dislike Billy Napier. He just coaches the Gators, and I'm not a fan of the Gators, obviously. They are my nemesis. And I'm mad at South Carolina because they may have very well been assisted against us last year with our signs because of good old Connor Stallions and his off-field analyst expertise. And if you've not subscribed, it's right here on your right. Hit this little button right here. I would appreciate it. Costs you nothing, helps me out. And right over here's the most recent video YouTube thinks you'll enjoy. And we'll see you next time on Sports Talk Jay.